And we are live. Hello, everyone. I am doing this live stream, a earlier live stream, and on Saturdays, usually I will do an earlier live stream. So here I am. We'll do this for a little while and see how everything goes. And yesterday, some stuff came up, and I was not able to do the live stream for yesterday. So it is what it is. It's all good. And we'll be switching over to the other screen. Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to the spaceship. I am glad that all of you are here, and recently we just had Halloween, and I did a Halloween stream very late, and some of you came and it was good, and on Halloween I got tied up with some things and other parts of the spaceship, and basically, we talked about different movies and things. We talked about the zombie movie. We talked about the history of Halloween and stuff, and I will, even though Halloween's over, I'll still talk about the usual topics that I talk about, and I will still talk about some of the spooky stuff, as and some things I missed on the other streams. And as I said, continuing with the different audiences as I do with different audiences that come in, I talk about various different things. So I'll be looking at I'll be doing some different, going over some articles and different things like that. Yeah, that's basically what I was talking about. And also, now, so continuing, we will go and I'll read some of these things right here. Let's see. Alright, about to be pulling up the other window in a moment. Okay. Alright. Going here. Okay. Shout out to the Spaceship Cats. Okay. Now what we'll be doing is I will be talking about some more of the Halloween stuff. And some interesting things about YSL, because basically Jeffrey Williams of YSL has been he has taken the plea deal and has now been freed, and it was a very, very deep thing to see that he's able to go, and the speech, the little testimony he gave was very, very moving. So it's good it's over, but I still believe that the district attorney and Fannie Willis and the DA of Georgia is very corrupted, and I do not like how it was handled, but it's good that he will go down a better path and do things differently than before. And shout out to Jeffrey Williams. He did very good with charity, and he did good with his music and things like that, and he will do more good as time goes on. And also, let's see, some things about Halloween, something specific I want to look at here. And let's go over here. Okay. Talking about Halloween, and there is this festival that Halloween is based off of, which those of you that may not see this live, I will go over this again in the future. So basically, this was the original holiday that Halloween was based off of by the ancient Celtic people, Scottish, Irish people. And I'll be reading about this, and then I'll talk about YSL also. But as I said, I will do other streams about all these things and future streams as well for those that may miss this specific live. Samhain on November 1st. So it's November 2nd. So it was November 1st yesterday. And marking the end of the harvest season and beginning of winter or darker half of the year, it is also the Irish Scottish name for November. That is something I did not know. Celebrations begin on the evening of October 31st, since the Celtic day begins and ends at sunset. This is about halfway between the autumnal equinox and the winter solstice. It is one of the four Gaelic seasonal festivals, along with the Ibalic, Beltane, and Luganasa, historically with widely observed throughout Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. Its Brittonic Celtic equivalent is called Callahan Gaoth, with pagan origins, and some Neolithic passage tombs in Great Britain and Ireland are aligned with the sunrise of at the time of Samhain. It is mentioned in the earliest Irish literature from the 9th century and is also associated with many important events in Irish mythology. Early literature says that Samhain was marked by great gatherings and feasts and was when the ancient burial mounds were open, which were seen as portals and to the other world. Some literature also associate Samhain with bonfires and sacrifices. And, also basically that they talk about portals and stuff that has to do with the ETs and aliens and things like that. And that's really interesting that there's a correlation with that. The festival was not recorded in detail until the early modern era. It was when cattle were brought down from the summer pastures and livestock were slaughtered. Special bonfires were lit, which were deemed to have protective and cleansing powers, like Beltane. Samhain was a liminal or threshold festival, with the boundary between this world and the other world blurred, making contact with the AOS, spirits or fairies, more likely. Most scholars see them as remnants of pagan gods. At Samhain, they were appeased with offerings of food and drink to ensure the people and the livestock survived the winter. Reminds you of what they did in South America, too, with the sacrifices. The souls of the dead kin were also thought to revisit their homes, seeking hospitality, and place was set at the table, them during a meal. Mummying and guising were part of the festival from at least the early modern era, whereby people went door to door in costume reciting verses in exchange for food. The costumes may have been a way limiting the distinguishing oneself from the IOC, the ghosts and the things like that. Divination was also a big part of the festival, and involved nuts, apples. In the late 19th century, John Rhys and James Fraser suggested it has been the new Celt the new no been the Celtic New Year, but that is disputed. And that would make sense that it was a Celtic New Year. It sounds very similar to that. Because it certainly seems like a type of New Year's celebration. In the 9th century, in Western Church endorsed 1 November at the date of All Saints' Day, possibly due to the influence of Al Cuin, and the 2nd November later became All Souls' Day. It is believed that Samhain and All Saints, All Souls influence each other. In the modern Halloween, most American Halloween traditions were inherited from Irish, Scottish immigrants. Folklorists have used the name Samhain to refer to Gaelic Halloween customs until the 19th century. Since the latter 20th century, Celtic neo-pagans and Wiccans have observed Samhain or something based on its religious holiday. In modern Irish, Scottish Gaelic, the name Samhain, while traditional Manx Gaelic name Suhain, Suin, it is usually written with definite article at Samhain Irish, Samhain Scottish Gaelic, the Telegraph, the sounds. Older forms include the Scottish Gaelic spelling of Samhain and Samhuine. So this is like the different names from the different Irish and Scottish way of saying the word. That's the explanation for that. Etymology. These names all come from the Old Middle English Samhain or Samhain, the name of the festival held on 1 November in medieval Ireland. Traditionally, it is derived from Proto-Indo-European summer. However, John T. Cook notes it is unclear why a festival marking the beginning of winter should include the word for summer. Linguistic Joseph Vendries contends that it is unrelated, saying that the Celtics' summer ended in August. More recently, linguists Xavier de la Mare and Ranko Matasovic derive it from Proto-Celtic Samoni, cognate with Old Norse Saman, Gothic Samana, and Sanskrit, all which mean together, as well as the Old Irish term Bethsheim. Delamere suggests it refers to an assembly of the living and the dead. The word Samhain is believed related to the month name Simone on the Gaelish Cologny calendar from the 2nd century CE. The 17th day of Simone is marked as Trinox Samani, the 3 nights of Saman, which seems to be a festival. It could represent the early November festival of Samhain or the summer solstice. 6 months later, the month Gaiman, which seems to contain the word for winter, in early Irish glossary. San As Cormac gives Gamain as November, the winter month after the festival of Samhain. So it's interesting to see, the dates of when these events took place. Origins. Samhain and Samhain was the name of the festival marking the beginning of winter in Gaelic Ireland. It is attested in the earliest Old Irish literature, which dates from 9th century onward. It was one of the 4 Gaelic sessional festivals: Samhain November 1st, Imbolc 1 February, Beltane, and Lug Nasa. Samhain and Beltane are opposite sides of the year, are thought to have been the most important Sir James George Frazer wrote in his 1890 book, The Golden Broth, a study in magic and religion, that on 1 May, 1 November are of little importance to European crop growers, but of great importance to the herdsmen practicing the seasonal transhumance. Humance. It is beginning of summer, and the cattle are driven into the upland summer pastures, and all beginning of winter they are led back. Thus Fraser suggests the festival has pastoral origins. That makes sense because there was hunters and gatherers. That's kind of why people may get tired when people get tired in the winter, or at least I do. Like you get kind of sleepy, or at least I get kind of sleepy, and it has to do with, you know, some things could have to do with vitamin D intake, but I get plenty of vitamin D. But I'm not tired right now or anything. I'm just saying sometimes with winter, you know, you have a situation where you, if there's a lack of sunlight in winter. Hello, Stranded. Good to see you. I'll get to you in a moment. When you have a situation in winter where it gets cloudy and you have lack of vitamin D, it's good to take vitamin D supplements. That can make people tired. And this is back when I was in school. I think I still get a little bit sleepy, but I do get sun. But yeah, when I remember back in school, it was very cold one time, and man, I just was like cozy and sleepy the whole time. And it could have been a couple different factors. It was overcast, but yeah, and it has to do with hunters and gatherers, and also like say like when you're when freezing crabs in a freezer, they go to sleep in like a hibernation. So the cooler weather will cause you to be more sleepy. Like you have a cooler room, it'll be more sleepy than a hot room. I've adapted to it though. You know, I have fans in my room, but the air conditioning area in my room broke at some point. But it's still air conditioning from the house goes in there, and I have fans in there. But it's, as I said, it's not like really really hot or anything, but it gets kind of warm. But I'm cool. But yeah, cool weather and like the nice, it makes you more like calm and stuff like that. And this was back when I was in school. When I was a kid, it's like a teenager, I would get sleepy in winter. You know, so I'm just gonna see what happens this time. Stranded said, "Hey, you're live tonight. Everything good? Missed you the last couple of nights. We got sleepy because it's freaking cold and no motivation to do anything." Shout out to you, Stranded. I'm glad you came here. I didn't go live last night. Some stuff came up, and I also, besides the stuff that came up, I was also looking at the Delphi trial. I've been really, these other streamers that I'm friends with, I've been going really in depth into it, and I've also been helping them out in the chat with my take on things. And also Halloween, I did a live stream. It was Thursday, so you probably wouldn't have been there, but it was very, very late. Latina and Eugene and a couple other people were there. So yeah, I was able to do that. Last night some stuff came up and I did some research on some things, but yeah, anyway, I'm glad that I am here and I'm here now. And also I'm glad to be here with you and everybody else. And Stranded, I hope that you're doing good. Everything's going well with you. And that was funny what you said. Alright, so 1890 book, The Golden Broth. Crop growers, but the greatest importance of herdsmen practicing seasonal transhumance. It is beginning of the summer, and cattle are driven upland in the summer pastures, and that being in winter are led back. Thus, Fraser suggests that was passional of the pasture origin. Some Neolithic passage tombs in Ireland are aligned with the sunrise around the time of Samhain and Ibolic. These include the Mound of Hostages, the Hill of Tara, and the Cairn of Las Calahaga. Yeah, Thursday I waited until about 1:30 Eastern. You were very late. Yeah, now, and I understand, that you went. Thank you for waiting. I I sort of halfway canceled the Halloween one, which will redo that one, Stranded, when everybody's here with you. I will redo it. But yeah, so yeah, basically down here it was I went down. It was 2 a.m. here when I did the live stream on Halloween. You were asleep. Yeah, but so basically, and I should have probably made a post about it, that it was going to be much later, but just I was on some other parts of the spaceship because some things came up, and I saw some wild things, and I was some stuff came up, as I said the other night with the Delphi case and things like that. I was just in some other parts of the spaceship, and yeah, and I will redo the Halloween stream for you and the others that were not there. It was just Eugene and Latina in the chat and the lurkers, and but we'll redo it. Irish mythology about Halloween. While Irish mythology was originally a spoken tradition, much of it was eventually written down in the Middle Ages by Christian monks. The 10th century tale, Troch Mark Meyer, The Wooing of Emerlis, Samhain, as the first of the 4 seasonal festivals of the year. The literature says a peace would be declared, and there were great gatherings where they held meetings, feasted, drank alcohol, and held contests. These gatherings are popular setting for early Irish tales. The tale of Getchatra Cormac says Feast of Tara was held every 7th Samhain, hosted in the High King of Ireland, during which new laws and duties were ordained. Anyone who broke these laws established during the time would be banished. All right. So basically, what happened was, with the YSL trial, I want to say, Jeffrey Williams pled guilty, and he did a plea deal, so the trial didn't end. He did a plea deal so he could go home, and Brian Steele believed he could fight it, but Jeffrey Williams wanted it to end. Also, he said he will not do that stuff again because he pled guilty to it. And he said, he's helped many people with his money he's gotten with the raps he did. And also, Elton John said that Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug is his rap name, is the next John Lennon. And, the judge said, maybe if John Lennon was around in this time period, he would have rapped. And they did the plea deal, and he said a very heartfelt speech. And then he, was freed, and his father, hello Eugene, good to see you. His father made some remarks about the situation, and basically he said, this country's turning into like a communist country, and he thought we got rid of communism. And a lot of people are waking up. The YSL trial caused people to wake up about the corruption of Fannie Willis and that whole group of people. And it was a very moving thing to see that in the trial because I've been keeping up with it for a very long time. And also, basically, what happened was this situation occurred where one of my Remy, shout out to Remy, if she came, I made a post about the YSL trial thing that they're doing the plea deal and it was going down, and she came and she was there with me, and that was really cool to have her there and my other friends there. It was a very moving thing. Stranded said, "I hope you redo it. I know Wolverines was supposed to do a call-in that night. He has a short movie on his channel he created. It's good and scary. I'll check it out, Stranded. Thank you for letting me know, and we will certainly redo it. It just there's other parts of the spaceship that I was in that I had to take care of. According to Irish mythology, Samhain, like Beltane, was a time when doorway to the other world opened, allowing supernatural beings and souls of the dead to come to our world. So they're talking about like a doorway to the other world open. And so basically, it's talking about the interdimensional beings. According to Irish mythology, Samhain, like when the doorways to otherworld opened up, allowing supernatural beings and souls of the dead to come into our world. Just just like I was talking about the theory of interdimensional beings and stuff like that. All right, it may have buffered for a moment, but it's going to be buffering again. All right. So basically, it talks of the same theory of the interdimensional beings. And basically, with Stranded, says John Lennon would never have done rap. Plus, John Lennon was a member of the Communist Party. Yeah, he seemed like he was pretty, into some of that stuff. And thanks for sharing that with us, Stranded. And they weren't like necessarily talking about his moral, like what he was, a party or whatever. They were just saying that, he was a great musician like John Lennon. Because he's a well-known, musician from the Beatles. It wasn't about like his personal life. And also, yeah, but she was basically saying that if he grew up in this modern age, because rap's very popular, but he was born in another time period, so he wouldn't have done rap. But if he was born in this age, maybe he would have been into that because that's what a lot of people these days are into. Because he was into the music genre of his day and age. So in his day and age, rap was a bigger thing. He would have been into rap. Maybe. It was an opinion. It may not be true. You may be right, but it buffers when I'm here. The ship is scared. I'll fly into an asteroid. Yeah, the ship needs to calm down. Stranded will not hurt the spaceship too much. All right. While Beltane was a summer festival, living in Samhain was essentially a festival for the dead. So basically, this Halloween festival was a festival for the dead. The boyhood deeds of Fionn said that Sid High fairy mounds or betrayals or portals to other worlds were always open on Samhain. Each year, the fire of Breather alien emerges from the other world and burns down the palace of Terra during the Samhain festival after luring everyone to sleep with his music. When Samhain, the youngest Fionn Mac Comheil stays awake and slays Aline with a magic spear, for which he is made the leader of Fianna. In similar tale, one Samhain, the other world being Cludaba, emerges from the burial mound of Sylvanmon and snatches. I see, but if you think about it, country music was the rap of old. Yes, that's true. And also, yes, Matt, it does make him like Tupac. All right, and that's funny. The tale of Adid Krismathahan Mayak Fadag, the killing of Krimathon Mac Fredag, tells the Mong find killings her brother King Crimthon of Munster, so that one of her sons might become king. Mongfind offers Crimthon a poisoned drink at a feast, but asks her to drink from it first. Having no other choice but to drink the poison, she dies in Samhain Eve. The Middle Irish winter notes that Samhain, also called the festival of Mongfind or Mongfaihan, that women of the rabble make pensions to her at Samhain. So basically, this dude was opening the portal to hell. Yeah, that's basically what was happening. Yeah, and yeah, he was. And also, I made a short about it, and I made some posts about it yesterday and the day before about Young Thug being released. My buddy, and he calls him Young Doug, and yeah, basically I talked about it in a short earlier. I mean, earlier this morning, I uploaded a short about it, and well, last night I uploaded a short about it, and I made posts about it too. On Halloween, I made a post about it, so like 2 days ago. And basically, what happened, Matt, is that he took a plea deal and he pled guilty, and they let him go, and he made a very heartfelt, touching, like little speech or statement about it. Mr. Adams and Brian Steele were with him, and Brian Steele believed that he could beat the case, but what happened was the situation is that Young Thug had enough of it, and he wanted to go and Thug had enough of it, and he wanted to go and be free, and the prison, he just eats a bag of chips every day, and it wasn't good for him. And I personally, in my opinion, think that Fannie Willis and the DA were very shady how they did it, in my opinion. I think that he, it's good that he will go out in his life and do, not hanging around the wrong people, and he will continue to do charity and help other people because he has spent, he's given a lot of money to charity and helping others. And I figured that because basically he wanted, he was helping other people and he was inspiring people when he was doing good things with his money. And this is one of the reasons why they went after him so quickly, because evil people like Diddy and Epstein, that did much more horrid things than Young Thug did, got away with it for so long until they got caught. So that just tells you that something naughty is going on with this place. And I think that the justice, the DA, the system certainly needs a change. Not being so shady with people like that. Also, YSL, his Thug's father, made some remarks about it. And, he was saying that basically it's similar to a communist country. Because it could happen to anybody. Also, Matt, I've been looking into the Delphi case. As I've been looking into that one also. That's a really involved situation. So thank you for bringing it up about my homie Young Thug, or even Young Doug. That's a good one too. And Fanny did not have a relationship with Young Doug. He did not have a relationship with Thug. Allegedly, his group deleted. Wait a minute. Willis should have excused herself because of her relationship with him. That was a conflict of interest. I've not heard of Young Thug having a. I don't think Young Thug had a relationship with her. That's not what I heard. I heard about. I did not hear anything about that. Fannie Willis's boyfriend was allegedly killed by the YSL gang. Hello, Remy. Good to see you. Shout out to you. Yeah, Remy, I was talking about the YSL trial, and you were there with me that time when he was pleading guilty. It was wild in the chat. I'm glad you were there with me. Hello, Alexa. Welcome. Good to see you. I don't think they dated. I'll look into it, Stranded, but I don't think they dated. And there's a drastic difference between those two. I think she's much older than him. But that doesn't matter, of course. I don't think they dated. I have to look into it. I'll look into it, though. I've not heard of that. Yeah, so basically, Thug, he pled guilty. And Brian Steele and Mr. Adams made their remarks about the trial. They made their remarks about the situation and the conditions he was in. And Alexa, I'm reading it. I'm reading it. So I'm reading it out loud for everybody. So that, but I understand. You're trying to read it, but I'll read it out loud. Those are two of my friends from the trial chat. Yeah, so basically, I think it was very shady how the state is handling things over there, but it's good that he will do better, and he is set free, and all that's over with. I was making some remarks about the YSL trial. I know. He did plea out. And I think, in my opinion, that he would have been able to beat the case. But he didn't want to go on and do it anymore. And, all the people involved, and he wanted them to be let go. And he with his health and his personal issues and his family, he didn't want to be away from them anymore. And as I said, I believe, in my opinion, Steele would have beat the case because the state was doing all this stupid stuff, bringing evidence against him that had nothing to do with anything. But as I said, it was very cringe what happened, and I think that it just was a the system is crazy. Okay, it's going in a wrong direction. All right, so Remy said, "Dude, I was glad you were there too. There was a few of us in chat apparently, but the chat was wild. It was for sure, for sure." Stranded said, "I could be wrong about them dating, but I remember these was some controversy around her being involved with the case." Yes, yes. A good thing Siri left the chat earlier. And I don't think so, love. Okay. Okay, you disagree? Okay, understood. And Remy says, when they read his lyrics in court, I was screaming. So Miss Love was reading the lyrics to Young Thug's album in court, and basically she was. It was hilarious, and Steele was about to explode because he couldn't say anything. He was about to. He was like about to explode, and also, LOL, Matt. Also, we have Alexa says it's not the system, love. He pled out. Alexa, I understand, but I'm saying that the system with the way the state, the DA, okay, so with the state, the DA, they were being shady during the trial. I'm not talking about him pleading out. He pled out. I understand that. But I'm saying that with the state, the way they presented the trial, and I think they were doing it wrong, and they were bringing up evidence that had nothing to do with him, and I think they're very shady how they did that. But yes, he pled out. Yeah, that, and it's good he was able to do that. It's good he was able to do that. Yeah, the lyrics don't mean anything, right? If Morgan Freeman read the lyrics, I think it would be slightly better. Facts. I said that, Matt. I said that in chat. Or Judge or Judy Dench. And I'm just an alien. I don't know who Judy Dench is, but I'm sure it would be nice. Okay, Alexa says Rico takes years. Thank you, Alexa. I don't know if I really knew that. Thank you. I didn't know there was a certain time length, but as I said, I still think that I know she made issues. Okay, you understand they made issues. Okay, I think Fannie Willis is corrupted, my opinion. But thank you, Alexa. I didn't know about the Rico taking years. Matt Freeman can read the back of a toothpaste tube and make it sound good. He can. He absolutely can. Absolutely for sure. Yeah, I saw that movie, Matt, about Shawshank. I saw that movie. To your surprise, I did see it. I didn't see it when it came out, though. No. All right, so Irish Story, which we'll go back and forth between these different things. The tale of Adiad Chris Thahin Mac Fidag, the killing of Crim Thun Mac Fidag, tells the Mongfine kills of her brother, King Crimthan of Munster, so that one of her sons might become king. Mongfine offers Crimthan a poisoned drink at a feast, but as he asks her to drink from it first, having no other choice but to drink the poison, she dies on Samhain Eve. The Middle Irish writer notes that Samhain is also called the festival of Mongfine. Women of Rabble make pensions to her in Samhain. Saw the FBI thing about Rico and stuff in the mess. And it took years. That's why that trial started with Chiut in 2015. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Alexa. Basically, I think that Miss Love and Miss Hilton and all of them are slizzy. They're shysters. But I understand the situation. Shawshank was filmed in the old Ohio Penitentiary. I didn't know that. Thank you for letting us know. Many other events in Irish mythology happened or begin on Samhain. The invasion of Ulster that makes up the main action of the Tahain Bo Kaya Isle Ij cattle raid of Coley brings on Samhain as cattle raiding typically was summer activity. The invasion during this off-season surprised the Ulstermen. The Second Battle of Maga Tulreda also begins on Samhain. The Morgan and the Dagda meet and have sex before the battle against four Marines, and the way Morgan acts as a sovereignty figure and gives the victory to Daggada's people, to Lutha D. Dan, in the dream of Onigus. It is when he and his bridge to the switch from bird to human form, and in the woeing of Etain, it is the day on which Onigij claims the kingship of Bru na Boni. Right on, Matt. Ohio represents. Woohoo. Yeah, facts. Sex before battle sounds like a horrible strategy after makes much more sense. Several sites in Ireland are especially linked to Samhain. Each Samhain, a host of otherworldly begins was said to emerge from the cave of Crahachan in County Roscommon on the Hill of Ward, County Meath, thought to have been the site of the Great Samhain gathering and bonfire. The Iron Age ring fort is said to have been where the goddess Druid Tolachataga gave birth to triplets, where she later died. In the Stations of the Sun, A History of Ritual Year in Britain, 1996, Ronald Hutton writes, no doubt there were pagan religious observances as well, but none of the tales ever portrays any. The only historical reference to the pagan religious rites is that the work of Gorfy Ketting died 1644, but his sources is unknown, similar to the Merlin story. Hutton says it may be that no religious rites are mentioned because centuries after Christianization, the writers had no record of them. Hutton suggests Samhain may not have been particularly associated with the supernatural. He says that the gatherings of royalty and warriors on Samhain may have been an idea setting for such tales in the same way many Arthurian tales are set as courtly gatherings in Christmas or Pentecost. All right, so basically, I didn't know that all of this stuff happened in mythology on Halloween. So this is Samhain. It's where Halloween comes from. So as I said, that's very interesting that they did that. That all this stuff happened on this time. It's very fascinating. And so they celebrated Halloween on October 31st, and November 1st and 2nd are really the days of Halloween. It's all Hallows Eve. But on Halloween Day, right, today and yesterday were the real Halloween day. The two Halloween days. Hello, Danny. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome to the chat. We're talking about the YSL trial. Jeffrey Williams pled guilty, and he took the plea deal. And he also, and that was a deep thing to see. And Remy and I were in the chat, and a couple other people, a couple other friends. Well, chat was wild. Also, we're talking about some historical context of Halloween. So that's what we're talking about. And thank you, Danny. I'm glad to see you here. But you really shouldn't leave your fastball in the dugout, if you know what I mean. So they celebrated it, and mostly scholars think that Halloween had something to do with the ancient Celtic people about, basically with the ancient Celtic people, they were doing stuff with cattle. They're moving cattle around. They were moving different things like that. And it was towards the winter time when they were harvesting crops and they were moving their cattle around. So this is the reasons for Halloween, why they celebrate it in the first place. Historic customs. Samhain was one of the four main festivals of the Gaelic calendar, marking the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter. Samhain customs are mentioned in several medieval texts in Sir Gilg Con Colhinen Cuchulain's sickbed. It is said that the festival of Ullaid at Samhain lasted a week. Samhain itself, and the 3 days before and after it, involving great gatherings where they held meetings, feasted, drank alcohol, and held lasted with itself. The festival of Ullaid at Samhain lasted a week. Samhain itself, and the 3 days before and after it, involved great gatherings where they held meetings, feasted, drank alcohol, and held contests. The Tugail Bredain de Dirge notes that the bonfires were lit at Samhain and stones cast into the fires. It is mentioned Gorfy Kettling, Forest Farasa Heron, which was written in the early 1600s but drew on early medieval sources, some of which are unknown. He claims that Fies Terra was held a week every third Samhain when the nobles and Olams of Ireland met to lay down the renewal laws in the feast. He also claims that the Durits lit a sacred bonfire at Tlachaga and made sacrifices to gods, sometimes by burning their sacrifices. He adds that all other fires were doused and relit from the bonfire. Alexa says, I knew it. Must have had something to do with the food. You a genius, Hans. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It is Alexa's first stream with me, and I appreciate her being here. Alright, ritual bonfires. So you have bonfires, and the ancient people did ritualistic bonfires, and you have this now. and basically ritual bonfires, like Beltane bonfires, were lit on hilltops at Smahain, and there were rituals involving them. By the early modern era, they were most common in parts of the Scottish Highlands, on the Isle of Man, in North and Mid Wales, and in parts of Ulster. McNeill says that they were formerly need fires, but that is his custom died out. Likewise, only certain kinds of wood were traditionally used, but later records show that many kinds of flammable material were burnt. It is suggested that the fires were a kind of imitative or sympathetic magic, mimicking the sun. We see a lot of ancient cults and religions, like the Aztecs and stuff. They were really obsessed with the sun, and they did sacrifices and things like that to the sun. So it's interesting to see the correlation with the sun here. And when you have winter, you're going to have less sun, especially up in the northern countries. And the northern United States would have, and even down where I am, there's less sun in winter, especially where I am, as far south as I am. So the sun, they're obsessed with it because they weren't going to have a lot of it left. So the sun, helping the powers of growth and hoping and holding back the decay of darkness of winter, like what I just said. They may also have served symbolically burn up and destroy all harmful influences. Accounts of the 8th and 9th century suggest the fire smoke ashes were deemed to have protective cleansing powers. Material, mimicking the sun, helping powers. In 19th century Moray, boys asked for bonfire fuel from each house in the village. When the fire was lit, quote, one after another, the youth laid himself down on the ground as near to the fire as possible, so as not to be burned, and in such position as let to the smoke roll over him. The others ran through the smoke and jumped over him. When the bonfire burnt, they scattered the ash, vying for who should scatter the most. In some areas, 2 bonfires would be built side by side, and the people, sometimes with their livestock, would walk between them as a cleansing ritual. The bones of slaughtered cattle were said to have been cast upon bonfires. People also took the flames from the bonfire back to their homes. During the 19th century, in parts of Scotland, torches burning fir or turf were carried sunwise around homes and fields to protect them. In some places, people doused their hearth fires on the Samhain night. Each family then solemnly relit its hearth from the communal bonfire, thus bonding the community. 17th century writer Gorfie Kenting claimed that this was an ancient tradition instituted by the Druids. Dousing the old fire and bringing in the new may have been a way of bashing evil, which was part of the new festivals in many countries. Also, so basically, as I said, with the Michael Myers, for instance, that movie, there's in this time period in the story, there is the Curse of Thorn, and I recalling correctly, there's this constellation, and it looks like a rune symbol of a P thing. And this P thing was the mark, the Curse of Thorn, and one person had to go and sacrifice the entire community, his entire family, to spare the family. Very similar to the Aztecs. So that, what I just read, reminded me of the legends of Michael Myers. Michael Myers was a descendant, and his family were descendants of that ancient Celtic tribe. So what they did was, they went and, he was evil. It's an evil demonic thing, because these spirits that they're talking about are fallen angels or demons. Something has to do with them. They go through different portals and things, like the aliens seem to do and stuff. So that story is very, very similar to this true mythology stuff Was it real or not? Now, this is a lot of this is accurate, but something could be disputed, of course. Like with the mythology stuff can be disputed. Amanda, hello, hello, dear. Good to see you. Sun equals awesome tan. It does, Danny. It does. I do that in the sun too. Facts. The sun is a source of light, warmth, and growth. The sun is a source of light, warmth, and growth, so it makes sense that people would relate fire to the sun. Yes. And, back when there's a time period when people didn't know what the sun was. People thought it was, people thought your heart, there is a candle inside of you. There's a spiritual light inside of you, but it's not literally a candle there. And also, they thought the stars and stuff were fire. So the people may have thought it was a giant fireball, which it is. There's fire on the sun, but it's not what they thought exactly. It's quite much larger than they thought. And also, so yes, Stranded, thank you. Very good point. I'll bet you are correct about the connection. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you very much. The bonfires were used in divination in the 18th century of Autre. A ring of stones, one each person was laid around the fire, perhaps a layer of ash. Everyone that ran around it with a torch, exulting in the morning. The stones were examined. If any were mislaid, it is said that the person it represented would not live out the year. A similar custom was observed in northern Wales and Brittany. James Fraser suggests this may come from an older custom of actually burning them. Human sacrifice. I called it. I just called it. Human sacrifice. Just like Michael Myers. That's where that comes from. There you go. I called it. Or it may have also been a symbolic divination, has likely been a part of the festival since ancient times, and has survived in some rural areas. I didn't know it survived in some rural areas. That's really interesting. Danny says the Aztecs and Mayan culture worship the sun, right? Yes, correct. The enslaved were sacrificed for people for the sun god. You are right. They sacrificed people every day because they thought the sun wouldn't come back if they did. Yeah. And after the fall of humanity, they went all across the world and went astray. And they didn't know exactly what they were looking at, but we have scientific advancements to tell people that the sun will come back up. And that's good. There were scientific advancements and things so people could know that, yes, religion's important and that's true, but some of these superstitions they had were not true. It's really sad. But it's good things are better. Things are not always better now, but at least we know the sun will come back up in the morning. And I don't want to knock on wood. Okay. And at the household festivities throughout the Gaelic regions in Wales, many rituals were intended to divine the future of those gathered, especially concerning death and marriage. Apples and hazelnuts were often used in these divination rituals and games. Celtic mythology, apples were strongly associated with otherworld and immortality, with hazelnuts were associated with divine wisdom. One of the most common games was apple bobbing. Another involved hanging a small wooden rod from the ceiling at the head of the height with a lit candle on one end and on the apple, hanging from the other. The rod was spun round and everyone took turns to try to catch the apple with their teeth. Apples were peeled in one long strip and peel tossed over the shoulder, and its shape was said to form the first letter of the future spouse's name. I know, exactly. Right, Alexa? Right. I hear are some slightly burned real estate in Waco that he could use. Shout out to Matt. Dude's a genius. And imagine thinking otherwise. I know, Alexa. I know exactly. The sun barely comes out over there. Yeah, Danny, over in the UK, I understand. And my uncle and my family live in England, and yeah, he told me about it. It doesn't really come out too much. But where I am, it's like the sun. I'm like in the middle of the sun. Like the sun is like it looks so big. Like it looks gigantic in my spot. In winter, it looks a little bit more distant though. Like right now, we're more distant from the sun, but in summer, it looks like a giant fireball. Two hazelnuts were roasted near a fire, one named for the person roasting them, and the other for the person they desired. If the nuts jumped away from the heat, it was a bad sign. But if the nuts roasted quietly, it foretold an excellent match. Items were hidden in food, usually a cake, barmbrack, croncham, and camp swans, and portions of it served out a random person's future. Thank you, Danny. Was foretold by the item they happened to find. For example, a ring meant marriage and coin meant wealth. A salty oatmeal bannock was baked. The person ate it in 3 bites and then went to bed in silence without anything to drink. This was said to result in a dream in which their future spouse offers them a drink to quench their thirst. Egg whites were dropped in water, and the shapes foretold the number of future children. Young people would also chase crows and divine. That reminds me of Sleepy Hollow. And some of these things, the number of birds, direction they flew. Alexa says you need to move north. So much better weather. And Alexa, especially when I was growing up, I really thought that, because the weather here is very hot. Now, as I got older, I got used to the heat. I got used to the climate here, and I like cold weather and hot weather. I like both, and I do appreciate down here a lot, especially with the food and stuff. But up north is very nice too, and the weather is very pleasant up there. And I certainly will go up there to visit it one day also. And yeah, and especially the snow. I know you're not a big fan of snow, but down here it doesn't ever snow. So I do like this place, but also I understand up north is very nice too, and the weather is much better. I understand. And the snow happened here for me last time technically in 2009, but it snowed a little bit, you know, here and there. Right. Now, also I would not permanently leave down here though. I wouldn't permanently leave this area, and I would definitely have a place up there, but I would not permanently leave down here for a variety of different reasons. And I do have a lineage of people that came from this place, and I would not permanently leave it, but I certainly would, say, get a house up there too. I like both areas. And also, but yeah, it is very nice up there, and especially the fall and the snow and stuff is very nice. Now, my yard, I do have a tree that's from China, so it does change colors, but all the other trees, they just turn brown. But I do like it, Sleepy Hollow, and is very nice. That story, it does get cold down here too. It gets colder down here because of the humidity. But Alexa, I totally do like the weather up there as well. I like both. I like this area and that area too. But when I was a kid, I wanted to pack my bags and go up there. It was very, very hot, very hot, but I do look forward to going up north and visiting it. I have quite a few subscriber friends, including you, from up there. And Stranded said, I can't remember where the line came from, but I always liked it when some reason. It's England, darling. It always rains in England. Yep, absolutely. Amanda says, snow is awful. I do not miss it at all. Now, snow is pretty till it turns black the next day. Yeah. Now, one thing I will say about down here is you could grow a lot of plants really well, But the problem is, it's been a drought recently, and it hasn't been doing as well as it used to. But it is raining more this year. This year it rained a lot. But also the hurricanes, too. The hurricanes are really something else. And they knock out the power sometimes, and they cause mayhem. And I have some autumn flowers that bloom annually, and they're all like on their side right now because these other plants push them over, but they're still okay. But yeah, and it's like a tropical jungle here. It's like a tropical, like the Amazon or something. That's certainly what it's like here. But I do love the north too. The north's very nice as well. I remember there's a friend of mine that comes here sometimes. His name's Norman. Shout out to him. He might be even lurking in the chat. Yeah, he showed me some of in New York State. He showed I looked up online. I looked up the pictures of the lake. It's beautiful up there. It's nice down here too, but down here it's like a swamp and a forest at the same time. Up there, as I said, very pretty up there too. It's a beautiful forest and very clear water. Because Alexa, down here the water is very dirty. Like in the lake. It's parts of the lake that people have not been since irrigation ended is still blue. They and green. They recently discovered it. They like went over there. But most of the lake is just dirty, mucky. And so I like the nice clear water y'all have up there in the north. Very nice. Very cool. And snow is great to look at from the inside your home. That's about it. Strand said, "The older I get, the more I want to move south for the winter." If you're lurking, hello. Yeah, shout out to Norman. Cool people. Danny, the thing about my area is that it's not about the heat, it's the humidity. Like it'll be 98 degrees with 80 to 90% humidity. It's the humidity down here. The humidity down here is really, really, really intense. Like you're like this. You're like barely standing up. And it's so hot. It's like being in an oven. And the humidity is very intense. So it's not the heat. Like if you go out west, it's still hot. But the humidity is like suffocating. As I'm an adult now, I've adapted to it. Okay, I'm in the sun a lot. I get a tan and all, and I've adapted to it. Okay, over very long periods of time. But when I was a kid, I did not like it. I like cold weather preferably, but I don't mind the hot weather. But as I said, it could be unbearable. And worse than an oven. That's better. Worse than an oven. And also, like, you could cook some eggs on the ground. It's so hot. The reason why it's so humid here is because we're surrounded by water. It's a giant water bowl. And the humidity just comes up from the swamps. Danny, it depends what time of year you came here, because it does get cold here in winter. But it gets more cold here than in your area. In theory, because the humidity is so intense here that it gets colder than the north. But yes, Danny, I don't think you would be used to this kind of weather here because it's so hot. You would have to drink a lot of water. And January is the best. Because, and Danny, when our ancestors went to fight down. So our ancestors, Danny, came down to try to bring New Orleans, to try to bring America back into the British Empire. And there was the Battle of New Orleans. And basically what happened was they came in January. Like Alexa says, come in January. The weather is very nice in January. You would like it in January. January is when our ancestors came down here to try to bring them back into the empire. So they did not invade during July or June or these horrible months. They came later. And so that is basically to summarize what it would be like here. But the food, though, the food is excellent here. One thing the city's known about is food. The food is great. You have all kind of gumbo and all kinds of different dishes and things. Tons of different stuff. A lot of seafood. It's very popular with food. You're welcome, Danny. You're welcome. Yep, the humidity is what makes it bad. Yes, yes. And this part of the Irish story, spirits and souls. Samhain was seen as a liminal time when the boundary between this world and the other world could more easily be crossed. This meant the Aosai, the spirits of the fairies, could more easily come into the world. Like what I said, the interdimensional beings. Many scholars see the Aosai as remnants of the pagan gods and nature spirits. At Samhain, it was believed the Aosai needed to be propitiated to ensure the people and their livestock survived in the winter. Offerings for food and drink would be left outside for the Aosai, and portions of the crops might be left in the grounds for them. One custom describes the blatant example of a pagan rite surviving into Christian epoch, or epoch, was recorded the outer Hebrides of the Iona. The 17th century, on the night of October 31st, fishermen and their families would go down to the shore. One man would wade into the water up to his waist, where he would pour out a cup of ale and ask Sionahada, whom he called God of the Sea, to bestow on them a good catch. The custom was ended in the 1670s after a campaign by ministers, but the ceremony shifted from springtime and survived until the early 19th century. People also took special care not to offend the Aosai and sought to ward off anyone out to cause mischief. They stayed near to home or it forced to walk in the darkness, turned their clothing inside out or carried iron or salt to keep them at bay. In southern Ireland, it was customary in Samhain to weave a small cross of sticks and straw called parashel or parashol, which was similar to bridge cross and God's eye. It was fixed over the doorway to ward off bad luck, kind of like the evil eye. Sickness, witchcraft would be replaced each Samhain. Yeah, people frying eggs on the sidewalk, absolutely. The dead were also honored at Samhain. The beginning of winter may have been seen as the most fitting time to do so. It was a time of dying in nature. The souls of the dead were thought to revisit their homes, seeking hospitality. Places were set to the dinner table and by the fire to welcome them. The belief that the souls of the dead return home to the night year and must be appeased seems to have ancient origins and found it may in many cultures throughout the world. James Fraser suggests, quote, "It was perhaps a natural thought that approach of winter should drive the poor, shivering, hungry ghosts from the bare fields and the leafless woodlands of the shelter of the cottage. However, the soul's thankful kin could return to bestow blessings just as easy as that of the wronged person could return to wreak revenge." Mummying and guising. In some areas, mummying and guising were part of the Samhain, first recorded in the 16th century Scotland and later in parts of Ireland, Man, and Wales. People went from house to house in costume or disguise, usually reciting songs or verses in exchange for food. It may have evolved from tradition whereby people impersonated Aosai or the souls of the dead and received offerings on the behalf. Impersonating these spirits or souls was also believed to protect oneself from them. S.C. Peddle suggests the geysers personified the old spirits of the winter who demand were rewarded in exchange for good fortune. McNeill suggests the ancient festival included people in masks, costumes representing these spirits, and the modern custom came from this. In Ireland, costumes were sometimes worn by those who went before the nightfall collection of Samhain feast. You're welcome, Alexa. You're welcome. Yeah, this is a gnarly costume right here. This is a really gnarly costume right here. Put myself out for a second. So, yeah, so this is one of the costumes they wore. That was before Party City and all those other stuff. Wow, that's pretty epic. Shranit said, "I saw some video of Americans going to England and they were freaking out because of the hotel didn't have air conditioners in the rooms. They didn't know it's not necessary over there as it is here." All right. Thamari Lwyd is a wassailing folk custom found in South Wales. The tradition entails the use of eponymous hobby horse, which is made from a horse's skull mounted on a pole and carried by an individual hidden under a sheet. So this is one of the origins of Halloween costumes. And they took a horse skull and put a stick on it, and they would go under the sheet and be a haunted ghost of a horse. Yeah, a hobby horse. I'll explain what that is. I have the definition right here. Come on. It's going to show. In folklore, a hobby horse is costumed character that features in some traditional sensational. No, I'll read that again. In folklore, a hobby horse is a costumed character that features in some traditional seasonal customs, processions, and similar observances around the world. In England, they are particularly associated with May Day celebration and plays the Morris dance. So it's like It's a tradition on certain holidays in England back in the old days. Yeah, facts. Facts. Now, this is the original Halloween costumes because that came from the ancient times. The reason why they have Halloween costumes is that they believed our world and the spirit world were very thin, and they would see ghosts and stuff walking around, and they wanted to dress up as creatures and stuff to blend in with them so they wouldn't be attacked and to go along with it. It's like camouflage. The custom was first recorded in 1800, but it probably existed from before then, with subsequent accounts of it being produced into the early 20th century. According to these, the Mary Liwage. No, it's not even. There's no, words like that in there. Letters and like that. It's Liwid. Was a tradition performed at Christmas time by a group of men who would accompany a horse on its travels around the local area. And although the makeup of such groups varied, they typically included the individual to carry a horse leader, and individuals dressed as stock characters as Punch and Judy. The men would carry the Mari Luid to local houses where they would request entry through song. Households would be expected to deny them entry. Again, though song of the two sides would continue their responses to one another in this manner. If the householders eventually relented, the team would be permitted entry to the given food and drink. Although the custom was given various names, it was best known as the Mari Luid. The etymology is a term remains the subject of academic debate. The folklorist Lorith Pieta believed that the term meant Holy Mary and thus was referred to as Mary, Mother of Jesus, while folklorist E.C. Cout thought it more likely than the term had originally meant Grey Mare, referring to the head's equine appearances. Several earlier folklorists to examine the topic, such as Piate and Ellen Ettinger, believed that the tradition had once been a pre-Christian religious rite, although scholarly support for this interpretation has declined amid a lack of supporting evidence. The absence of the late medieval references to such practices and geography dispersal the various British hooded animal traditions among the hoodening of Kent, of the Broad, Cotswolds, Old Ball, Old Tup, Old Horse, Northern England, have led to suggestions that they derive from the regionalized popularization of the 17th century fashion hobby horses among the social elites. Yeah, trick or treat. And the tradition declined in the mid 20th centuries, particularly due to opposition from some local Christian clergy. Changing social conditions, it was revived in new forms in the mid-latter part of the century. Tradition has also inspired various artistic depictions, for instance, the painter Clive Hickens Jenkins and Vernon Wickens. Alright, so shout out to the horse, the hobby horse. And that's why you turn off your lights and pretend not to be home on Halloween. Yeah, right on. In Scotland, young men went house to house with masked, veiled, painted, or blackened faces, often threatening to do mischief if they were not welcomed. Trick or treat. This was common in the 16th century in the Scottish countryside and presented into the 20th. It is suggested that the blackened faces came from using the bonfire's ashes for protection. In Ireland, in the late 18th century, peasants carrying sticks went house to house on Samhain, collecting food for feasts. Charles Valency wrote that they demanded this name of Saint Colm Kyle, asking people to lay aside the fatted calf and bring forth the black sheep. In parts of the southern Ireland during the 19th century, the geysers included a hobby horse known as Lyre Bahan, White Mar. A man covered in the white sheet and carrying the decoration of the horse, like we just showed, would lead a group of youths blowing on a cow horn, the cow horns. Like. Actually, I've blown a conch shell horn. I have one somewhere. I have like a conch shell, so it's like those giant seashells on the beach, and I drilled a hole in it, and you can go like. When you're blowing a horn, your lips have to vibrate, and it produces a sound in the horn. That's how you do it. And they blow the cow's horn. A skull group of youths cow horn from farm to farm. At each they recited verses from some which savoured strongly of paganism, and farmer was expected to donate food. By doing so, he could expect good fortune from Merc Ola. Not doing so would bring misfortune. This akin to Mary Lywyd Graymar. Processions in Wales, which takes place in midwinter in Wales. The white horse is often seen as a omen of death. Elsewhere in Europe, customs mummying the hobby horse were part of other yearly festivals. However, the Celtic-speaking regions, they were particularly appropriate to a night upon which the supernatural beings were said to be abroad and could be limited, warded off by human wanderers. Right on, Stranded. I remember that one. Houghton writes, when imitating malignant spirits, it was very short steep from guising to playing pranks. Playing pranks at Samhain is recorded in the Scottish Highlands as far back as 1736. It was also common in Ireland, which led to Samhain being nicknamed Mischief Night. In some parts, wearing costumes at Halloween spread to England in the 20th century, as did the custom of playing pranks, though there have been mummying at festivals. That's okay, Danny. You're good, bro. At the time, mass transatlantic Irish and Scottish immigrants, which popularized Halloween in North America, Halloween in Ireland and Scotland had a strong tradition of guising and pranks. Trick or treating may have come from the other custom of going door to door collecting food on Samhain feasts. Fuel for Samhain bonfires or offerings for the AOSI. Alternatively, it may have come from Al O'Hallowtide custom of collecting soul cakes. The traditional illumination of geysers or pranksters abroad the night in some places was provided by turnips are mangel wurzels, hollowed out by the act as lanterns and often carved with grotesque faces. They were also set on window sills by those who made them. The lanterns were variously said to represent spirits of supernatural beings or were used to ward off evil spirits. These were common in parts of Ireland and Scottish Highlands. In the 19th century, they were also found in Somerset, Punky Nights. In the 20th century, they spread to other parts of Britain and became generally known as jack-o'-lanterns. Livestock. Traditionally, Samhain was a time to take stock of the herds and food supplies. Cattle were brought down to the winter pastures after 6 months in the higher summer pastures. See transhumance. It was also time to choose which animals would be slaughtered. The custom is still observed by many who farm and raise livestock. It is thought that some rituals associated with slaughter have been transferred to other winter holidays. On St. Martin's Day in Ireland, animal, usually a rooster, goose, or sheep, would be slaughtered and some of its blood sprinkled on the threshold of the house. It was offered to St. Martin, who may have taken the place of god or gods. It was then eaten as part of a feast. Custom was common in parts of Ireland until the 19th century and was found in parts of Europe. At New Year's, the Hebrides, a man dressed as cowhide, would circle township sunwise. A bit of the hide would be burnt. Everyone would breathe in the smoke. These customs were meant to keep away bad luck. Similar customs from other Celtic regions. And we went through this whole thing. Wow. I read this with Latina on. Yes, understood, Alexa. Understood. And but we have a this other part where a part I talked about Latina with on the Halloween, where I was late that time. All Hallow Tide in 609, Pope Boniface IV endorsed 13 May as a holy day commemorating all Christian martyrs. By 800, there is evidence that the churches in Ireland and Northumbria were holding a feast commemorating All Saints on 1 November, which became All Saints' Day. Alcuin of Northumbria apparently inspired his friend Erno of Salzburg, Bavaria, to hold the feast of the date. James Fraser suggests this date was a Celtic idea, being the date of Samhain, while Ronald Houghton suggests it was a Germanic idea, writing that the Irish Church commemorated All Saints on the 20th April. Some manuscripts of Irish mythology of Mara Ortigi of Tal Agat and Martyrology of Oenigus, which date to the time, have commemoration of All Saints of Europe on 20 of April, but a commemoration of All Saints of the world on November 1st. It is suggested that Alcuin, member of Chamberlain's court, introduced 1 November date of All Saints in the Frankish Empire. In 835, the empire officially adapted to the date. In the 11th century, 2 November became established as All Souls Day, as created the day of the 3-day observance known as All Hallow Tide. All Hallows Eve on 31 November, All Hallows Day 1 November, and All Souls Day November 2nd. So right now we're on All Souls Day. Yeah, so we have a lot of interesting how these different cultures would celebrate these different things. It is widely believed It is widely believed in the public that many of the modern secular customs of Hallows Eve, Halloween, were influenced by festival of Samhain. Other scholars argue that Samhain influence has been exaggerated, and All Hallows also influenced Samhain itself. Most American Halloween traditions were brought by Irish and Scottish immigrants in the 19th century. Then, through American influences, these Halloween traditions spread to many other countries in the late 20th century. Now, I am part Irish and Scottish. I'm related to England, Wales, Ireland, Scotland. I'm related to the entire British Isles. I'm related to all of them. And so, some of my ancestors were, that's how they practiced their faith. Very interesting. And then later they accepted Christianity and then they incorporated it into Christianity. Danny says, I don't know much about Halloween and its origins. Very interesting. You're welcome, Danny. And there it is. Yep. Yes, indeed. This is a pagan bonfire. I'll put myself out the way for a second. Alright, so this is the bonfire. And this is like a modern. So they have some people that are bringing back some of the paganism. So they're reenacting what they did originally. So that's like a reenactment of what would have happened centuries ago. All right. Some people, and they're dressed similar to how they would have dressed probably. They're wearing kind of modern clothes and stuff, but, the hairstyles probably are influenced by that. And yeah, that's them doing their thing, and that's like people like bringing it back and reenacting it. It's epic. It looks very epic. It certainly looks epic for sure. Neo pagans usually celebrate Samhain October 31st, November 1st in the Northern Hemisphere. April 30 and May 1st in Southern Hemisphere. I did not know that. Beginning at the end of sundown. I didn't know that. Some neo-pagans celebrate it as an astronomical midpoint between the autumnal equinox and winter solstice. Right, exactly, Alexa. Exactly. It'll be up in the air. Right. Or full moon nearest to its point, which is usually around 6 to 7 November in northern hemisphere. Like other reconstructionalist tradition, Celtic reconstructional pagans emphasize historical accuracy. They base the celebrations and rituals on traditional lore as well as research and belief of polytheistic Celtic Celts. They celebrate Samhain around the 1st of November. No, the swamp creatures in down here are much nicer and don't try to steal your money. Exactly, Stranded. There you go. That was funny. Beliefs in polytheistic Celts, they celebrate Samhain around November, but may adjust date the suit their regional climate, such as when the first winter frost arrives. Their traditions include sanding the home, and lighting bonfires. Some follow the old tradition building of two bonfires, which celebrates celebrants and animals, then pass between purification ritual. They do the whole thing. Time when the dead are especially honored. Also, there's a Day of the Dead in Mexico. The Mexico, they'll put on all these beautiful masks and stuff on, and they'll celebrate their dead through making offerings at the time of the year in Samhain. Is when more elaborate offerings are made to specific ancestors. This may involve making a small altar or shrine. They often have a meal where a place for the dead is set on a table and they are invited to join. An untouched portion of the food and drinks is left outside as offering. Traditional tales may be told, traditional songs, poems, and dances performed. A western-facing door or window may be opened and candle left burning. The wind seal guys in dead home deviation for the coming year is often done, whether in a solemnity as games. The more mystical inclined may also see this as time for deeply communing with their deities, especially those particularly linked to this festival. Danny says, "Nah, I haven't celebrated in a very long time. My niece and nephews do. There were a lot of families in my area walking around trick-or-treating. It's not popular as it was back in the day. And as I am aware, a new-found Christian, we are not meant to celebrate pagan holidays. Am I wrong?" Okay, Danny, so basically, it depends. So with a pagan holiday, it depends. So it was originally a pagan holiday, but they now use it to celebrate Christianity. Because there's something called All Saints Day, and they use it to celebrate the saints and people passed away. Like, for instance, I was talking about Halloween in this other area where it's used as a Christian holiday also. And Halloween is fine to celebrate as long as you're not worshiping a pagan god or something. There's nothing wrong with it. Especially if there's people that are celebrating any of the pagan holidays, but using it to glorify God, so there's that. So taking the pagan holiday away from the pagan gods, directing it towards God, like All Saints Day. Also, Halloween, wearing costumes and having a celebration, that is not against Christianity. The problem is if you celebrate or worship a pagan god or partake in a pagan ritual, like say if there's these Celtic pagan movements and you go there to celebrate a pagan god with them, that probably would be prohibited. But Halloween, as long as you're not worshiping some demon or a false god, it's okay. Especially, it's also been used to celebrate the saints, All Saints Day. Right, dancing in a field somewhere. Yeah, that's good. That's not what they taught. Right. Danny, you're correct about that. I guess it's just the U.S. It's such a big thing that we don't see it as a pagan holiday anymore. Right, exactly. And also, Halloween was very lucrative because it could make money off selling candy and movies and stuff. So it was a great thing you could do in America they were able to capitalize off of it too, and it was something fun to celebrate. Thank you, Stranded. Yeah, thanks. Shout out to y'all. Christian origins and historic customs. Halloween is thought to have influenced Christian beliefs and practices. The English word Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve, being the evening before the Christian holy days of All Hallows Day. On November 1, All Souls Day on November 2, since the time of the early Christian. Major feasts in Christianity, such as Christmas and Easter, Pentecost, have vigils that have begin at night before and did the Feast of All Hallows. These 3 days are collectively called All Hallows Tide and are a time when Western Christians honor the saints. and pray for recently departed souls who have yet to reach heaven. Commemorations of all saints and martyrs were held by several churches, various states, mostly in springtime, in the 4th century in the Roman Edessia, in which was held on 13 of May and 13 May 609. Pope Boniface IV rededicated the Pantheon in Rome to Saint Mary and all martyrs. This was date of Lemuria, ancient Roman festivals of the dead. And also, I want to say that Martin Luther, who is a Protestant, who started the Protestant Reformation, put his thesis of complaints about the Catholic Church on the door of the church on October 31st, by the way. Halloween back in the day was dancing around the fire naked, worshiping their pagan religion. Nowadays, it's just about chocolate. Exactly. How times have changed. Stranded also, if you look at some Christian Christmas traditions, like lighting a tree, was originally taken from pagan traditions. Yeah, so the Christmas tree is from pagan origin. I'll tell you exactly where it came from. Chocolate. Someone say chocolate. That was from the SpongeBob episode. Unquestionably, the answer relates to the Christmas tree's deep roots. The Christmas tree tradition emerged from the sacred trees of Northern Europe mythology, such as Yggdrasil. My Viking ancestors, and Danny, you're English too. You're related to them probably too, somewhere in there. Which the Vikings and Viking mythology, the Yggdrasil tree, the tree of life, and they had like similar chakras on that tree, similar to Hinduism, because the origins of the Nordic people were from northern India, and that goes down a rabbit hole of a lot of different things. Like, so, and Nazism is wrong and bad. And basically, like, Hitler talked about this people that came from northern India and they migrated into Europe. And also the symbol they had, the peace symbol that got banned, rightfully so, you know, that was associated with the ancient people from there. But they migrated into Europe at some point. And the Yggdrasil tree is similar to the chakras, because Norse paganism originates also from Hinduism and Buddhism and stuff. So that's just a fun fact to throw out there. And yeah, and there's some supremacist groups that use these symbols as a supremacy symbol. Not the Christmas tree though, but pagan Norse stuff as a symbol of supremacy. But of course, people can be proud of their ancestors and be proud of their race and all. That's good. But of course, other races and other groups are great too, and we should all get along and not be against each other. And yeah, so Yggdrasil and the giant ash tree in Norse cosmos that holds all the world's roots and branches. So the Yggdrasil tree is the giant ash tree at the center of the Norse cosmos that holds all the world's and roots and the branches. So the origins of Christmas trees come from paganism, but guess what, everybody? It was used for a Christian cause. Jesus defeated the pagan gods because they were the fallen angels that came here to be worshipped, and he died on the cross and rose again, and he took that glory back to himself. Danny, I have a mixture of different things too. You know, I'm mixed with different parts of Europe, and I'm, you know, related to the Mediterranean people. Also, I'm related to people from Spain, and also predominantly Italy in France, but also Northern Europe too. I'm related to all over the place in Eastern Europe. So yeah, shout out to you, Danny. That sounds like a very interesting mix there. Also even like the British royal family are allegedly connected to Muhammad somewhere in there because there was a caliphate, and then the daughter of one of the caliphate that took Spain married. She converted the Christian to Catholicism, and she married allegedly a prince of Spain. So the royalty in Europe has some connection with that allegedly. So yeah, like the royal family, for instance, has a lot of different ancestors of different people and things. So yeah, shout out to all the different ancestors people have, cool cultures. I am an extraterrestrial, but my Earth form has these different ancestries from Earth. That's my Earth form, but my extraterrestrial form was from Planet 10. Well, some people do. They call them trans. That's hilarious. Christian origins and historic customs. Halloween is thought to have influence from Christian beliefs and practices. I read that already. Right, right. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III founded an oratory in St. Peter's from relics of the holy apostles and of all saints, martyrs, and confessors. Some sources say it was dedicated on November 1, while others say it was Palm Sunday in April 732. By 800, there is evidence that churches in Ireland and Northumbria were holding a feast commemorating All Saints on November 1. Alcleon of Northumbria, a member of Chamberlain's court, may then have introduced this on November 1, date of the Frankish Empire. In 835, it becomes the official date of the Frankish Empire. Some suggest this was due to Celtic influences, while others suggest it was Germanic idea, although it is claimed that both Germanic and Celtic speaking peoples commemorated the dead and beginning of winter. They may have seen it as most fitting time to do so, as this time by dying in nature. It is also suggested the change was made on the practical grounds that Rome in summer could not accommodate the great number of pilgrims who flocked to it, and perhaps because of public health concerns, the Roman fever, which claimed a number of lives during the Roman solitary summers. So we see all the way back, there's these Christians that see, look, Christians around the world dedicated this day to the people that passed away, like the Day of the Dead in Mexico. And right here, that's on Halloween. They dedicate to what Jesus did. That's a Lutheran church. By the end of the 12th century, the celebration had become known as the Holy Days of Obligation in Western Christianity, and involved such traditions as ringing the church bells for souls in purgatory. It was also customary of criers dressed in black to parade the streets, ringing a bell, mournful sound, and calling on a good Christians to remember the poor souls, the all-tide custom baking, sharing soul cakes for the Christian souls, and has been suggested the origin of trick-or-treating. The custom dates back to at least the 15th century and was found in parts of England, Wales, and Flanders, and Bavaria and Austria. Groups of poor people, often children, would go door to door during All Hallowtide, collecting the soul cakes in exchange for praying for the dead, especially the souls of grievers, friends, and relatives. This was called souling. Soul cakes were also offered for the souls themselves to eat, or the soulers would act as their representatives, as the Lenten tradition of hot cross burns. Soul cakes were often marked with a cross, indicating they were baked alms. Alright, we're about to continue. Alright. Shakespeare mentions souling in his comedy The Two Gentlemen of Verona in 1593. While souling, Christians would carry lanterns made of hollowed out turnips, which could have originally represented souls of the dead. Jack-o'-lanterns were used to ward off evil spirits. On All Saints and All Souls Day, during the 19th century, candles were lit in homes in Ireland, Flanders, Bavaria, and Tyrol, where they were called soul lights, that served to guide the souls back to visit their earthly homes of many of these places. Candles were also lit graves on All Souls Day. In Brittany, liberations of milk were poured into graves of kinfolk, or food would be left overnight in dinner table. Returning souls, a custom was also in Tyrol and parts of Italy. My friend's wife came back from us recently and brought back a MAGA cap. So happy. Alright. Okay, Danny. Good for you. Facts. Christian minister Prince Sori Conte linked the wearing of customs All right, Stranded. A co-pilot spaceship break. All right. It's all good. Christian minister Prince Sori Kuntai linked the wearing of costumes to the belief in vengeful ghosts. It was traditionally believed that the souls of the departed wandered the earth until All Saints' Day. All vengeful ghosts. It was traditionally believed that souls of the departed wandered the earth until All Saints' Day. All Hallows' Eve provided one last chance for the dead to gain vengeance on their enemies before moving. Hey, SE. Hey, SE. And SC, I want to say that on Halloween, I did a very, very late Halloween live, and it got delayed because I was on some other parts of the spaceship I had to take care of. And I'm sorry about you not working out, not working out. But I will redo it for you to come on the show and tell us some scary stories. So it'll be redone, and you could come on and talk about the scary stories you want to do. All right, so shout out to USC. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad I got to tell you that. To gain, okay, so it was tradition. All right, SE, understood. It was traditionally believed that the souls of the departed wandered the earth until All Saints' Day, and All Hallows' Eve provided one last chance for the dead to gain vengeance on their enemies before moving the next world, in order to avoid being recognized by any soul that might be seeking vengeance. People would don masks, costumes in the Middle Ages. Churches in Europe that were too poor to display relics of martyred saints at All Hallows Tide let the almost tied. Europe that were too poor to display relics, martyred saints on All Hallows Tide, let parishioners dress up as saints instead of some Christians observe this custom at Halloween Day. Leslie Benettain believes that they could have been a Christianization of an earlier pagan custom. Many Christians in Midland Europe, especially in France, believe that once a year on Halloween, the dead of the churchyard rose for one wild, hideous carnival known as Dance Macabre. I talked about that before in this channel. It's where they did the Dance of the Dead, and they had this trick where when there would be death going on, they would just dance and have a good time and not care, which was often depicted in church decoration. Christopher Almond and Rosamund McKendrick wrote the new Cambridge medieval hostility that the Dance Macabre urged Christians not to forget the end of early earthly things. The Dance Macabre was sometimes enacted in European villages, pageants, and court masquerades, with people dressing up as corpses from various states, centra of society, and this may be the origin of Halloween costume parties. And also, we have some chat. You guys seen Terrifier 3? I've not seen it yet. And Danny, every time any of my friends try to find one or I go find one, they're sold out all the time. Wow, I guess that it's good. Oh well, more Trump supporters every single day, and we could do it now, she said, and DGT gear sells out fast. Luckily, when someone gets one. Scary movies bring me closer to God. I don't know why, 'cause good and evil, I guess. Yeah, because when something scary or something bad happens, you get closer to God because you need God to help you out. Wolverines, are you posting part 2? Danny says, I have no idea where she got them from. She got 2, one for her husband and one for me. It's funny because she doesn't like the Orange Man, but me and my friend does. And he said, "That's what I said. She's lucky she got one, Danny. That's awesome." Yeah, yeah. When you're trying to find something you want to buy, it'll be kind of rare, and it's good if you get your hands on something that's very rare like that. Essie, I have not seen it yet. I have not seen it. I haven't seen your movie, but I'll definitely check it out. Also, I have seen. Also, SC, I want to tell you that Jeffrey Williams of the YSL trial, he pled guilty and he took the plea deal, and he's free now. And he's going to go on a different path. So, and that was something big. I was in chat with Remy and a couple other people, and it was really wild in chat, but we were able to go and see it and it live. And I'm glad I didn't go to a movie that day. I'm glad that I went and saw Jeffrey Williams, and now he's out. And Brian Steele and Mr. Adams made some remarks about it, and the father of Jeffrey Williams said that, that the country's turning into like a communist country, the way these things are working. So yeah, it's very good to see now that everything is being exposed. Yeah, Danny, I understand what you mean. And also, basically, what happened was they. Yeah, what happened with that. Now, there may be some things that are based off true stories, some horror, some things that happened, some horror stories that happened, and they may be basing it off things that happened. And also, I think in those like demonic movies, the forces of God would be much stronger at getting rid of the demonic entity. And I think that it's an opportunity good to be close to God. And I do wonder why they don't talk about the other religions too. That's a good point. In those movies, despite the intentions of those movies, what they're trying to do is, it's good to see the movie. I mean, I'm not saying it's good to see the movie, but a lesson to learn from those movies is to stay close to God, because the forces of darkness will be protected. Now, there are people that take religious roles that are evil, that are bad, that want to corrupt it, and to beware of wolves in sheep's clothing, like that nun is a wolf in sheep's clothing. But I do agree, Danny, about what you're saying, of course, as well. Thanks, Danny. Thanks. But so from the demonic movies is, I don't know what their intentions are, but I say it shows why it's good to be close to God. And a lot of things I studied and a Muslim I talked to one time, it's like they attack Christianity the most because it's the biggest threat to them, because it's in their way. Yeah, facts, Essie. Facts. Yeah, because I'm saying, like, with the demonic nun, there are people, there are priests and stuff, and in other religions too, that took the position to be evil. And also, there could be, and I've heard stories from some people that were not necessarily graped or anything, but some nuns may not be nice. Some nuns, I've heard. And because people can become corrupted, you know, but basically, I don't know the intentions of those movies and all, especially if they're trying to be evil, it's not right. Especially if they're trying to be evil, that's not right. But basically, the point the point is to be close to God. Because you see demonic things and be close to God. Right. I think that's a good message. Because in those movies, the people pray and they rebuke it in the name of Jesus. And that's something good to know if you're in a situation like that. But I do agree with you, Danny. You and SC have good points as well. What happened to my man SC Wolverines while she unsubscribed because of your movie? It sucks to lose subscribers, but I wouldn't sweat it. It's your channel. You do your thing. Yeah, SC. There's a lot of I don't who unsubscribed to you. Who was it exactly? I'm just curious. Now we're showing pictures from the YSL trial. No, Halloween pumpkins. How about that? Yeah, shout out to Danny. Facts. I agree. And yeah, SC, I've had that happen to me, SC. I've had people unsubscribe to me and be angry at something. It happens to me too. It sucks, but you keep on making the content and being consistent. There'll be many people out there that like your content. It's you're very good at making movies. You're good at making voices, and I'm really looking forward to see your movie. I'm excited about it. And yeah, these are some Halloween pumpkins. All right, yeah, these are some Halloween pumpkins. They look so cool, and they use pumpkins because yeah, and also Jack a Lantern. He was trying to like trick the devil, and he wasn't allowed in heaven or hell. And also, he pinned the devil down by putting a cross up, and the devil threw him a hot coal at him. He threw a hot coal at him, and then he put the hot coal inside a turnip and he walked around with it. So that's some vague origins of Jack o' Lantern. I'll put that up. Facts, Essie. Facts. Yes, three. Yeah, three votes. Yes, yes, Danny. All right, jack o' lantern, a formerly root vegetable such as a mangelwurzel, rubatabaga, or turnip. The lanterns are associated with Halloween holiday. Its name comes from the phenomenon of strange lights flickering over peat bogs called jack o' lanterns, known as will o' the wisps. It is suggested that the name also is a legend of Stingy Jack, a drunkard who bargains with Satan and is doomed to roam the earth with the hollowed out turnip to light his way. And Satan out of hell throws him a hot coal and he puts it inside the turnip. That's one of the origins of the jack o' lantern. All right, as the story Stingy Jack goes, several centuries ago in Ireland, there lived a drunkard known as Stingy Jack. He was known throughout the land as a deceiver or manipulator. On a fateful night, Satan overheard the tale of Jack's evil deeds and a silver tongue. Uncon- Unconvinced and envious of the rumors, the devil went to find him where whether or not Jack lived up to his vile reputation. I've done it before, Stranded. I've done it before. Typical of Jack, he was drunk and wandering through the countryside at night when he came upon a body of his cobblestone path. The body, with an eerie grimace on his face, turned out to be the devil himself. Jack realized that this was his end. Satan finally come to collect his malevolent soul, so Jack made at least last request. He asked the devil to let him drink ale before departed to hell. Finding no reason not to acquaintance the request, Satan took Jack to the local pub and supplied him with many alcoholic beverages. Upon quenching his thirst, Jack asked Satan to pay the tab for ale, much as to his surprise, because he didn't carry money. Jack convinced him to turn himself into a silver coin with which to pay the bartender and change back when he's not looking. Satan did so, impressed by Jack's unyielding nefarious tactics. Shrewdly, Jack stuck the narrow transmogrified Satan coin in his pocket, which he also contained a crucifix. The crucifix presence kept the devil from escaping his form. This coerced Satan agrees to Jack's demands in exchange for freedom. He has spared Jack's soul for 10 years. Yeah, somebody can put SC Wolverine's channel in there. Or SC can do it himself if he wants. So Danny or anybody else can subscribe to SC and I'll pin it. But Danny, it's his channel. It's SC Wolverine's. 10 years after the date Jack originally struck his deal, he naturally found himself once again in the devil's presence. Jack happened upon Satan at the time, at the same time setting as before. He seemingly accepted, and it was accepted, and it is time to go to hell for good. As Satan prepared to take him to hell, Jack asked if he could have one apple to feed his starving belly. Foolishly, Satan once again agreed to the request. As he climbed up the branch of nearby apple tree, Jack surrounded its base with crucifixes. Satan, frustrated at the fact that he had been entrapped again, demand his release, as Jack, before he made a second demand that he will never take his soul to hell, having no choice, the devil agreed and was set free. You're welcome for anything I did. I know you're talking to Danny. You're saying thanks to Danny, but I just for posting a link. That whatever. You're welcome. If I helped you out in any way, you're welcome. Eventually, the drinking took a toll on Jack, and he died. Jack so prepared to enter heaven through the gates of St. Peter, but he was stopped. Jack was told by God that because of his sinful lifestyle of deceitfulness and drinking, he was allowed to into heaven. Jack then went down to the gates of hell and begged for admission into the underworld. Satan, fulfilling his obligation to Jack, could not take his soul. He gave Jack an ember to light his way. Jack is doomed to roam the world between planes of good and evil, with only an ember inside a hollow turnip, to a large rutabaga to light his way. All right, all right. Well, that's great. You made the music too. That's SC. I'm glad you're creating things still, and I'm glad that you did that. I'm gonna be very, very excited to see it. All right. Yeah. So that's the jack o' lantern. Also, we'll do a review. You're welcome. All right. So this is my man Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug, and as a little review, you're welcome, Essie. Jeffrey Williams has been freed, and he pled guilty to the drug charges. And after nearly 2 years, maybe 3 years, he is now, could go back to doing his thing, and he'll do his charities, his rap. They agreed for him to do some rap for people, and the money will be raised will go to charities. He will do a couple of different things, and also he will not go down the path again. And this trial, as Alexa Rose said, it's a very long. RICO is very long, and in my opinion, I feel the state of Georgia and Fannie Willis is very shady, and they were bringing up evidence that had nothing to do with Jeffrey Williams, and Jeffrey Williams surrendered and took the plea deal, and he doesn't have to be in jail, and he only got a bag of chips to eat, Doritos, and Brian Steele believed he could beat the case along with Mr. Adams, and it was a very emotional, deep moment for the chat. Everybody's been watching this for a long time. Remy Nass was there, and it was just a very crazy thing to see. The chat was wild, and I was putting my emotional emphasis on the situation. And I was glad to see her and my other friends there. And I've been keeping up with that trial for a long time, and I'm glad to finally see that situation resolved for him, and he'd be around better people, and he'd be around different situation. And yeah, it just, I really think that, you know, I really think that Fannie Willis is corrupted, and this could have been handled differently. And Mr. Adams said it, and he's a prosecutor. And it was very heartfelt statements that Jeffrey Williams made. I really appreciate what he made, and he's donated to charity. He's done a lot of good things. So, from here on out, let him do something better with his life now. All right, Danny. See you soon. All right. I'm going to be switching over to this one over here. All right. So basically, I want to say is that this is a brief summary of the history of Halloween and different stuff like that we were doing. And also, SE, on one of the late night shows, yeah, don't forget to set your clocks back. And also, I want to say is that SE, we are going to do it another time. We'll do the stories, and it could be next Saturday during the day this time. It could be next Friday or Thursday, preferably SE. I want to do it when Stranded is here. So I want you to do it with me on either another Saturday, like next Saturday or next Friday night, so Stranded could be here and see it. And I apologize about the Halloween stream not going as intended. It's just there's so many. The spaceship's a big place, But anyway, but basically, just don't forget to set your clocks back. And also, Stranded told me some interesting information about how the cloud formation over Turkey that looks like an alien spaceship is actually, there's a scientific explanation for it. It was very interesting that she sent me. And okay, so SE, on next Friday we'll do the stories. All right, SE, so on next Friday on the Late Night Live, we'll do the story for her and everybody else, and we'll redo the late night stream for Halloween. It'll be a Halloween stream redone. Right. Yeah, facts. Facts. All right. Also, I'm glad that y'all are here. And I really enjoyed this. we had a good time with each other, and now it'll be ending. We'll be wrapping it up. And I want to thank you all for being here for this Saturday early stream. We saw some different people that you wouldn't usually see because I usually go live very late. Although, shout out to the late night stream audience. That audience is cool too. And all of you have a great weekend coming up. All right. So thank you all. We'll see you all next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'll be going live next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay? I will. Certainly the Thursday and Friday streams. Certainly. Okay? And thank you all for coming out. And thank you, Essie. Thank you, Stranded, and everybody. All right? And peace.